I'm Louis.
I'm Brenna.
I'm John.
I'm Crystal. I'm Shanika.
What comes to mind when you think social stratification?
Stratification is a system in which people are divided into layers according to their relative property, power, and prestige.
It is important to emphasize that social stratification does not refer to
It is a way
individuals.
of ranking large groups of people into a hierarchy according to their relative privilege.
We are attempting to show our individual experiences that express stratification through race, gender, and class.
These years were spent mostly in a public school and a military base called Governor's Island in the middle of the harbor of New York City. Ta-da! As a child, I recollect that the kids around me were diverse cultures and genders, and we were all kids of military class. The military base, however, was separated into a class system by the types of homes related to your rank. The higher the rank, the better the housing was. I lived with my family in an apartment. I finished my last year of elementary school in a Baptist church in Key West, Florida. The kids I was around were mostly white, and that the religious influence was very influential in our education. Middle and junior high school. The first year of junior high or middle school, because they're called two different things in two different places, was, as some would say, spent in a private school in Davie, Florida. The school was diverse, but only to the people who paid to be there. Middle and upper class kids filled the halls. I was emotionally challenged due to my parents' divorce and stayed in a shell for most of the year. It was only near the end that I started to come out of my shell, but it was all for naught due to my dad's decision to enroll me in a public middle school the next year to repeat the 6th grade. This is when I met most of my friends from different races and backgrounds. I lived in a trailer park, so when I did have friends at home, they were in the same class. My friends at the school were mostly white kids on the same level as I was. My 8th grade year, I moved back to New York City due to my dad getting reassigned. This year, I had to go to the junior high in Manhattan, and this was the most diversity and social class diversity I had ever experienced. Being a military brat meant keeping close to the same kids that had to travel from the island we stayed on. High school. Now, I started high school in New York City. It was still a huge, diverse group of people from all classes and cultures. I still stayed close to my comfort zone with the other military kids. I spent a lot of time skipping school and seeing a lot of the city, exploring different parts of the city and getting a street education. The time came to an end in 1990 when my father retired the summer just before the Gulf War started. Reno, Nevada is where we ended up, and this is where I finished high school. I was given the real high school experience of going to football games, part of a basketball team as the ball boy, worked on the yearbook, and because of my skipping school in New York, I got to spend an extra year at a school in the school in Reno. That's right, kids. 2 proms with 2 different girls. I experienced a cultural difference from Puerto Rico to Mexico to Mexican cultures. My high school had less than 10 black students in it during my enrollment. The kids were proportional between white, Hispanic, and Asian, and I encountered a handful of Native Americans for the first time. The diversity was different from anything I had ever experienced, but I hung out with mostly kids of my working class. College. Here I am in college now. It is diverse culturally with people from all over the world. I am part of a class that the government classifies as just below the poverty line. Stratification is keeping the masses in the dark through lack of education. You have to pay to go to college, and there are too many in this world that won't get this chance. My revolution will be to fight for all that follow me, including my own 2 beautiful children. Get the same chance at education. Knowledge is power, and we should have that chance.
Life was simple. Then came school and education. Kindergarten didn't happen. First grade was non-existent. I learned to clean. I was a Christian girl. I did not go to school. Second grade came. It almost went, too. I came in halfway over. Started in a small school. It was a Christian school. 50 kids from kindergarten to 8th grade. Boys were dominant. Women did not speak out or act out. I followed directions and became quiet. Through to 8th grade. Quiet, fragile, innocent, clean woman. 9th grade, by myself. Homeschooling was boring. Good grades, but no social interaction. Spare time was used to cook and clean. No one but me. Culture shock hit, 10th grade. Swearing, sex, drugs, fights, disrespect. I was a minority. I didn't understand those around me. Some language differences, a multitude of cultural differences. Bus rides through the projects, only one of 3 white kids to ride the bus. Sitting in the back was unthinkable. Buildings falling apart, crowded passages to class. Too many people, one of 6,000 students. Introduced to many new worlds. Finally, graduation. From over 1,000 students in my year to 650 graduates that last day. College wasn't a question. Where to attend was. I applied to UCF. I was accepted. My budget wasn't. I started at SSC. Picking my own classes was fun. Not knowing what I was doing wasn't.
Superwoman, yes I am.
I'm the oldest out of 6 kids. I have 1 sister and 4 brothers. I grew up living off of minimum wage. 1 parent working, my father. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and wife. I grew up in a Pentecostal religion where you was taught to live right and don't do any devilish things. I was sent to elementary school in the hood, if that's what you would call it. It was called Phyllis Wheatley, after a black poet. Also, with living in a low-income housing, a lot of people don't understand or know how it is to live that way, like getting food stamps, so you only went grocery shopping once a month, not having like the luxury things, like no name brand clothing. We didn't even have a house phone. I had to use the neighbor's phone or my aunt's phone who lived like down the street from us. Some people say I was poor, but my parents gave us what we needed, which was to be rich with gratitude for what we had. I went to a predominantly black elementary school, which was 70% black, 20% was probably Hispanic, and 10% white. This school I thought was a good school back in the day, but I've learned recently that it's not so good anymore. They are having maintenance issues, and a lot of teachers are leaving this school, and it's now a F school. For middle school, I went to a Apopka Middle School. It's more diverse, and I was placed in a lot of like advanced classes, so I really didn't interact with the people I rode to school with on the bus. I was in classes with other students, more white students. So I was picked on, and they called me nerd because I really didn't hang with the black kids, because I would go to lunch with whoever was in my class, which was more white kids. For high school, I went to Apopka High School, which has a 70% graduating class, and it's more diverse. There's 48% male and 52% are females. 45% is white, 31% are black, and 20% Hispanic. My senior year, I did get pregnant. I became a teen mom. So, of course, statistics say I wouldn't do anything. I would be living in low-income housing with a bunch of kids unwed, which was not true. I did go to school after high school. I went to medical assistant school, which I've been doing that since 2001 with pediatric. I did want to go off to college, but I couldn't go off to college, of course, because I had a baby. And since I was the mother, I had to stay home, but his father, he did go off to college. Well, he went to Job Corps, but I couldn't do that. I had to stay home and raise my son. I'm at Seminole State now because I want to show my 3 boys that regardless of what happened in your life, you can always go back to school and try to do something better with your life.
Nobody wants to be the last one there, and everyone wants to feel like someone cares.
The story may be a little bit different to some, but a repeat to others. I was born into precisely the middle of our social triangle, right into the middle class. Sadly, the majority of people may depict my life as being full of butterflies and rainbows. I was born into a faithful Seventh-day Adventist religion household. Ever since I was just a month old, I have been faithfully attending church. Because of the property and power possessed by my parents, I was placed into this layer. I was never even asked if this was where I wanted to be. Failing has never been an option, but being close to perfect has. When it came time to go to school, my parents, surprisingly enough, followed statistics. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, it is depicted that 85% of parents whose salary is close or over $75,000 annually choose public school systems for their children. This decision, made by my parents 12 years ago, has shaped me into becoming the exact individual that I am today. Mixing with other children my age from all different race, class, and gender has shown me something amazing that is sadly shielded through stratification. My elementary years passed by smoothly. Before me, there wasn't much differences among my classmates. We were young, open-minded, and best of all, innocent. Life was fair when we could put our differences apart. As years in middle school came rolling in, stratification began to find its place in each and every one of our lives. The layering and rankings began according to what you were blessed enough to have, or not to have, started becoming more visible. Life became more about the material things you had, and not about who you were as an individual. My parents had always demanded good grades from me, so I always held myself focused to school, as much as I could possibly take. The main thing from middle school was clothing. Certain races would dress a certain way, almost as if they were standards written in a book. Stratification taught me, or better said, forced me to follow what society says. For most of my middle school, I stayed to my group of friends and focused on school. Then high school came around. I chose together with my parents to attend the smallest school of Seminole County Public Schools, Creams Academy. It was no longer about clothes since uniform was enforced. Everybody knew almost everything about everyone. With only 124 students in our graduating class and 600 in total attendance, you would think that within such a small school community, stratification wouldn't be as evident. But that's not the case. Students and even teachers fell into the hole of stratification. I feel that stratification is another way of automatically telling individuals or forcing them to believe that we are all divided and different. But deep down, I know that we are all alike, aside from the numbers that we have in our bank accounts and the color in our skin. It's a cycle that truly should be broken.
Still I stand, yeah, no matter what the I am.
It started way back in the day, where I couldn't put it together. Hence, it was that one type of way. Stratification, classifying the person you are without having to say. Born in a family less privileged, inhabitants to this country. So according to facts, my future was already written. No power, prestige, or property. I might as well have said we were predestined to inequality. To make matters worse, I was confused. Because back where my parents originated from, I was told I was simply an American. But back home in the States, I was classified as an immigrant. I figured I was just misplaced. I later learned it wasn't me, and we were just divided in society, and it depended on your race, better known as ethnicity. But there's more to it, you know. Division in class, as society yet again played a key role in shaping my past. Placing my parents in a bracket based off what they had in their pocket. Thankfully, my parents weren't strangers to hard work. Father and mom. My father held 2 jobs while my mom had 1. All this was to state that, quote unquote, we can stay within our brackets. Middle class, lower middle class. So it's safe to say life's demands were surpassed. Taught to embrace my blessings, because life was unpredictable and it could change in any second. Inherited my parents' worth ethics, because for them, hard work pays off in the end. So there it is, a glimpse of my life as it was, or as it still is, seeing that stratification is still unaware among most of us. But placed in the lower middle class, with both my parents at home, struggling to pay bills, my worries were greater than that. Well, for the most part. In elementary school, it was just a breeze. All I could remember was just saying cheese, as it was just playing around in the playgrounds and gathering and being the first of the line leader. But that slowly finished as we got to middle school. Growing up in the northern part of Chicago was kind of tough. You soon inherited what you didn't want, which was territory fights. You had to mesh with certain cliques to walk down certain streets. So the chances were getting slimmer and slimmer when parents began to think if we were becoming statistics. Now catch this. My parents did an amazing job by switching states. And so it eliminated our chances of becoming a statistic. Do you realize that? You can change. You can change certain things to not just be a number. And that was just the beauty of it. So I didn't finish middle school in upstate in Chicago. I finished it here in Florida, where it was completely diverse. People and cultures I hadn't seen before. See, back in the States, northern states, it just consisted of Hispanics, mostly Mexican Americans. Down here is diverse, and I saw a glimpse of a little of everything. I went into Seminole High School, in which my ethnicity, Mexican American, were fewer. But it didn't change my perspective, and I accepted change, because after all, change changed my life. So with all the change around me, I still managed to stay focused, because after all, my parents were dropouts. And my main priority was to fix that for our family. I graduated with slim chances. I was kind of bad, but I cleaned up my act. So now I'm here in college, trying to make it with among most of my class members, and each of us shared different stories. But what's the difference if we're all human beings and we deserve our own true story? After it's all said and done, this has only strengthened me. But I tell you this is not how it's supposed to be. It's a system that divides amongst us and tells us that we can't be who we want to be. Who are they to measure our success? We all deserve a fighting chance. Because, well, after all, we all know that obstacles are there to strengthen us and make us stronger. and use it as motivation to conquer.
There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives.
It's true, we make a better day, just you and me.
So how do we solve it? A solution to social stratification is to educate everyone.
Awareness is the key.
The problem is too many people are unaware of the stratification in this country.
This leads to a lot of inequality and problems.
Let's break the cycle so that people can know and we can solve the issues. Let's break the cycle.